Good morning. Hayom Yom, Chof Aleph Sivan. So in Kabbalah it says that there are 10 Sefiros, 10 spiritual energies through which Hashem creates the world and interacts with the world. And it says that the human soul and the human psyche come from these 10 energies and therefore are structured after these 10 energies and reflect the 10 energies. And since the 10 energies, the 10 Sefiros, are divided into two groups, the first three Sefiros, the Chabad, make up the intellectual side, and the bottom seven Sefiros, the bottom seven energies, make up the emotional side. So because of that, the human is also divided between his intellectual side and his emotional side. And everything about you, every stage of the process of the way you process ideas and the way you process emotions and the way you make decisions and everything about you externally and internally can essentially be traced back to these 10. And to one of these 10 and the way these 10 work together. And this is what the Alter Rebbe says in his book, the Tanya, in chapter 3. Now, says the Rebbe in today's Hayom Yom that a person might think that this makes up the totality of human experience. And every last human experience and feeling and decision, basically, is traced back to these 10 and comes back to these 10. And he says that is not the case. Because Kabbalah tells us that there are 5 layers, 5 levels within the human soul. And the lower 3 layers, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, those are called Keches Pnimiyim. They enclose themselves in the body. They are channeled by the body, they find expression in the body, they're captured by the body. And it says that each of the 10 Sefiros correspond to a different area in the human body, in the human anatomy. And the corresponding sphera to that organ, or to that body part, or to that area in the body, will find more expression in that part of the body, or will really be captured by that organ, by that part of the body. It's very localized. As opposed to the 2 higher elements of the soul, the Chai Yechida, so that element of the soul doesn't find expression in the body, is not channeled by the body, is not localized at all. And he said it's from this higher element of the soul that a person is capable of feeling the feeling of Mesiras Nefesh, of an absolute, non-negotiable surrender and unconditional surrender and submission and utter devotion to Hashem, even to the point of self-destruction. Because the feeling of Mesiras Nefesh is when a person feels, as a yid, niter vil und niter kon chas v'shalom, zayna nifrad melikos. As you feel, it's not an option to sin. It's not an option to break himself off from Hashem, to divorce Hashem. It's not an option. It's self-destruction to sin, to go against Hashem, to divorce Hashem. And therefore, you're so devoted to the point of self-destruction because you realize it is self-destruction to sin and to go away from Hashem. And just to explain a little bit, there are many things that us humans become attached to and have an affinity to. There's many things that we grow an emotional attachment to. There's many things we have an intellectual attachment to. There's many things we have a physical bond and attachment to. And some of these attachments become very, very deep, very deeply ingrained within us, very difficult to give up, very synonymous with who we are. But there is nothing in the world, there is no attachment, there is no loyalty, there is no affinity to anything that with enough external pressure or with enough incentive or with enough intervention, a human can't give up. A person can't change and go away from. There is no idea that you believe in, there's no idea you have in your head which you can't change. There's no emotional attachment or loyalty to anything that with enough intervention or incentive that you wouldn't give up or wouldn't become detached from. And there's no physical attachment that we have that we can't give up with enough incentive or external pressure. Because all those many attachments, all those emotional and physical and intellectual attachments which come from the 3 lower elements of our soul, come from the 10 elements, the 10 Sefiros within our soul. So the way that works is that there's us, there's our soul, there's our being, and then there's the things we're becoming attached to. There's the things we're developing an attachment to. And no matter how deep that attachment gets, there's always you and the thing, and you could always separate yourself, you could always divorce yourself from those things you become attached to. As opposed to when a person lives with and feels their core, their essence, the etzma neshama, the essence of the soul, the higher element of the soul, over there's not the soul and things the soul becomes attached to, things that you bring into your life. Over there, you realize and you value things that are who you are. And over there, the soul's values, the soul's attachments are things that are the soul, basically. And the soul and its values, the soul and its attachments are not things that the soul has brought into its life, are not values that the soul has brought into his life, not ideas the soul has brought into his life, but it values itself. It values what it is. And at its core, every soul, every person is a piece of Hashem, is a piece of God. And therefore, on the essence of the soul, on that level, so a person feels and realizes and lives with the fact that they at their core are Hashem. They and Hashem are one. They and Hashem are synonymous. They are one with Torah. They are one with Hashem. They are goodness. They are holiness. They are godliness. And because of that, it's not an option to divorce God. It's not an option to sin. Because to divorce God is to divorce yourself. To divorce God, to destroy your relationship with Hashem, is to destroy yourself, is to self-destruct. And therefore, there's no price that makes it worth it to self-destruct. If somebody would say, I'll give you $1 billion if you shoot yourself in the head, so it doesn't make any sense. You would take $1 billion to cut off your arm, maybe, to go through many trials and tribulations, but you would never shoot yourself in the head to get $1 billion, because it doesn't matter if you get $1 billion if you shoot yourself. And in the same way, no matter how challenging it never is worth it to sin. Once you're living with Mesiras Nefesh, once you're living with your core, it's never worth it to sin, because to sin is to kill yourself, is to self-destruct. So God bless you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.